Ahora pediré los comentarios a Christopher Dunford, former expresidente de Freedom from Hunger y Senior Research Fellow. Y una vez más le ruego a los miembros de la mesa no exceder los 8 minutos, de forma de que tengamos tiempo suficiente para las preguntas y comentarios de los delegados. Usted también oiría sonar una campana en caso de que estuviera en tiempo. Muchas gracias, señor Dunford. Adelante.
It is inevitable. We practitioners who aspire to social objectives will be held accountable for measuring, reporting, and both internal and external auditing of our social performance. And that's because there's a gathering global movement for what's being called integrated reporting of both financial and non-financial performance by both for-profit and non-profit institutions. For example, already, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange requires, since March 2010, that all companies submit integrated reports or list themselves elsewhere on another stock exchange. And many other countries are moving quickly in the same direction. So the pressure on the microfinance industry for such integrated reporting is not an isolated nuisance. The question is not whether we do it, but the who and the how. Who sets the standards and the methods to prove adherence to the standards? And how is the standard setting done? I want to emphasize the importance of concerns about practitioners being subjected to arbitrary and ill-fitting standards imposed by non-practitioners without sufficient appreciation of the realities and constraints we live with. Now, I welcome these new social performance initiatives in microfinance because they are driven primarily by practitioners and those who share the practitioner perspective. This is an effort to get ahead of the investors, donors, and regulators who, in the absence of our providing clear leadership in creating our own system of integrated reporting, will impose their own litmus tests on us. Now, the SEAL initiative seeks to follow the example of the SMART campaign, which is more developed at this point, and also the Social Performance Task Force. They started with what seemed to be technically sound proposals and then subjected them to extensive consultation with practitioners first and then with investors, donors, and regulators to test the feasibility and utility of these proposals. And now they're adjusting them in an iterative process of proposal, consultation, and adjustment. My confidence in this process that it's likely to succeed is strengthened by the experience of our industry in the development of the SEEP network's financial reporting standards starting in the early 1990s. SEEP is a practitioner network, now a network of networks actually globally, and it stands for the Small Enterprise Education and Promotion Network. SEEP gathered a group of credible financial service experts from the staff of the member organizations, and it tasked them with formulating feasible and useful measures and standards for MFIs to report financial performance. They offered proposals and vetted them with the SEEP membership and beyond in an extensive process of consultation that led to agreement on such familiar performance measures as operational self-sufficiency, financial self-sufficiency, and operating expense ratio. Over time, these measures have been evolved by experience and new rounds of proposal, consultation, and adjustment. For example, financial self-sufficiency has given way to return on assets and return on equity as key indicators of financial sustainability and profitability. Investors, donors, and regulators have come to accept these practitioner-developed indicators of financial performance, and they use them in their own litmus tests to choose who they favor and disfavor. The measurement and reporting of financial performance data is now taken for granted. The necessary burden this puts on practitioners now seems so routine, and the value seems obvious. At least now we know the rules of the game and how the score is kept. If we commit to doing it and making sure it is done right and learn and adjust as we go forward, the burden of measurement and reporting of non-financial performance should someday seem equally routine and valuable. Now, the key phrases here are making sure it is done right, and learning and adjusting as we go forward. Now, we who truly value poverty outreach and transformation for our clients must find real value in the seal, and even in the burden of reporting that the seal requires. Now, many of you with more diplomatic impulses may prefer to speak of challenges, but I know that the practitioners in the room are thinking, let's call it what it is, an additional burden. There's no question that the practitioners who want to be acknowledged for their commitment to poverty alleviation by receiving this seal will have an additional reporting burden. At minimum, measurement of a sample of clients' poverty levels upon entry, using some credible measurement method. Also documenting what we do to improve the lives of the clients and their families and communities. Not just financial services, but for many of us, the offer of non-financial services such as education, health services, agricultural extension, and business development services. And even more burden to receive the highest level of the seal, which involves hosting or directly conducting measurement of change over time in the poverty levels and related conditions in the lives of our clients. The burden is justified by the value we find in the process and result of measurement and reporting, and, of course, the brand enhancement that comes from receiving the seal. Now, the relationship to other reporting initiatives is very, very important, especially the way the seal builds on and is nested within the other initiatives. The SMART campaign, which embraces the transparent pricing objective of MF transparency. That applies to all wannabe ethical financial service providers. The Social Performance Task Force, the universal standards that it's developing for social performance, these apply to a smaller subset of ethical financial service providers who have social objectives of some kind. The seal applies to the still smaller subset of those with socially motivated socially motivated financial service providers whose particular social objective is poverty outreach and transformation. Those with other social objectives, like women's empowerment or employment generation, are, or they could be, developing in their own way, some way to recognize commendable progress toward their social objective. Now, granted, many practitioners have more than one social objective. So the implication is that recognition of their achievements means meeting the requirements of more than one seal of excellence. Welcome to the life of those who would be social performers and want others to believe them.